We've been told a story about success. It goes something like this. If you work hard enough, if you push yourself, if you refuse to give up, then eventually you'll succeed.
Before we get started, check out the link in the description to download our ebook.
Effort equals reward. Persistence conquers all. The universe rewards those who try. But if you've lived long enough, you know that's not quite true. You've seen talented people fail. You've watched lazy people succeed. You've felt the sting of doing everything right and still coming up empty. And somewhere in that dissonance, between what we're told and what we experience, there's a hidden logic we rarely talk about. A logic that connects opportunity and effort in ways far more complex than the self-help books want to admit. Today, we're going to explore that logic. It's not to become cynical, but to become wise. Not to give up on effort, but to understand what effort actually means in a world where opportunity is never evenly distributed. Let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine two people. Both work 60 hours a week. Both are disciplined, talented, and resilient. One becomes a millionaire, the other barely survives. What happened? The meritocratic story would say, one worked smarter, one wanted it more, one had better character. But this story requires us to ignore almost everything we know about how the world actually works. The truth is, effort exists within a context. And that context, that invisible architecture of circumstance, often determines more than the effort itself. You can be the hardest working person in a village with no internet connection, no venture capital, no access to education or networks. Your effort is real, but the opportunities that would transform that effort into visible success simply don't exist in your environment. The philosopher John Rawls called this the veil of ignorance. If we didn't know which life we'd be born into, which family, which country, which body, we'd design a very different world, because we'd suddenly realize how much of what we call merit is actually fortune. How much of what we call laziness is actually exhaustion from fighting systems designed to exclude you. This isn't about diminishing effort. It's about seeing effort clearly, without the comforting mythology that hard work alone is enough. So what is opportunity really? It's tempting to think of it as a door you walk through. But opportunity is more like oxygen. It's ambient, systemic, often invisible until it's gone. Opportunity is being born into a language that dominates global commerce. It's having parents who understand how institutions work. It's living in a city where chance encounters can change your career. It's being encouraged rather than discouraged. It's having time to take risks because you have a safety net. It's being seen as credible by default rather than having to prove yourself again and again. The sociologist Pierre Bourdieu talked about different forms of capital. Not just money, but social capital, cultural capital, symbolic capital. These are forms of wealth that don't show up on a balance sheet, but determine who gets access, who gets believed, who gets a second chance. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most of us have benefited from opportunities we didn't earn and didn't even notice. And most of us have also been denied opportunities for reasons that had nothing to do with our effort. Both things are true. The question is whether we're willing to see the full picture. Because once you see the architecture of opportunity, once you understand it's not random but structural, built by policy and culture and history, you start asking different questions. Not just how do I succeed, but how do we build a world where more people have access to the raw materials of a good life? But let's not lose sight of effort itself. Because even in an unjust world, even in a world where opportunity is unevenly distributed, effort still matters, which is not in the way we've been taught. Effort isn't a transaction. You don't put in work and get out success. That's a slot machine, not a philosophy. Real effort is more existential than that. The existentialists, thinkers like Camus and Sartre, understood something crucial. We don't choose the circumstances we're born into. We don't choose the opportunities we're given or denied. But we do choose how we respond. And that choice, that act of effort in the face of an indifferent universe, that's where meaning lives. Camus wrote about Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder up a mountain forever, only to watch it roll back down. The gods thought this was the ultimate punishment. But Camus says we must imagine Sisyphus happy, not because the task has meaning imposed from outside, but because he chooses to give it meaning through the act itself. Effort in this light isn't about earning success. It's about defining yourself through action. It's about saying, this is who I am, this is what I value, regardless of the outcome. It's a moral choice, not a mechanical one. This reframing is liberating. It means your effort has dignity even when it doesn't produce the results you hoped for. It means you're not a failure if you work hard and still struggle. The effort itself, the choice to keep showing up, to keep building, to keep caring, that's the thing of value. Here's the paradox. We have less control than we think and more responsibility than we'd like. We can't control whether we're born into wealth or poverty, whether we're healthy or sick, whether the economy crashes the year we graduate. We can't control whether someone takes a chance on us, whether our work finds an audience, whether luck breaks our way. But we can control our effort. We can control our integrity. We can control whether we show up with honesty and care. And while that doesn't guarantee success, it does guarantee something else. It guarantees that we remain authors of our own lives, even when the plot goes sideways. Nietzsche called this amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance, but active embrace, the ability to say yes to your life, including the parts that didn't go according to plan. To find beauty in the struggle itself, not just the victory. This doesn't mean being naive. It doesn't mean pretending systemic injustice doesn't exist. It means holding two truths at once. The world is unfair, and your effort still has meaning. Opportunity is unevenly distributed, and you still have agency. Success is partly luck, and character still matters. So if effort doesn't guarantee success, and opportunity isn't evenly distributed, what does success even mean? Maybe it's time to stop measuring success by external metrics we didn't choose. Money, status, recognition. These things aren't bad, but they're also not entirely within our control. And tying our sense of worth to them means giving away our power to forces we can't influence. What if success was alignment? Living according to your values, even when it's difficult. What if it was growth? Becoming slightly more capable, more compassionate, more clear-sighted than you were before. What if it was contribution? Knowing that your work, your presence, your effort made something slightly better.
How?
These measures of success are within your control. Not completely. Nothing ever is. But substantially. You can choose to act with integrity, even if no one's watching. You can choose to be kind, even if it's not rewarded. You can choose to build something meaningful, even if it never becomes famous. And here's the strange thing. When you stop chasing success as the world defines it and start pursuing success as you define it, you often become more effective anyway, because you're no longer performing. You're no longer trying to game a system. You're just doing the work that matters to you with full presence and commitment. And that authenticity, that clarity of purpose, that's magnetic. The hidden logic behind opportunity and effort is this. They're not opposites. They're partners, but they're unequal partners in an unfair dance. Effort without opportunity can be noble but invisible. Opportunity without effort is often wasted. The sweet spot is when the two meet, when preparation encounters chance, when hard work finds a system that recognizes and rewards it. But we can't control when or if that meeting happens. What we can control is our part of the equation. We can show up. We can do meaningful work. We can build skills and character and wisdom. We can create conditions where, if opportunity arrives, we're ready. And just as importantly, we can work to create more opportunity for others. Because once you see how much of your own success depended on factors beyond your control, you can't unsee it. You become responsible, not in a guilty way, but in a compassionate one. You start asking, how can I be someone who opens doors instead of closing them? Can I be part of a system that sees people rather than overlooks them? The hidden logic isn't hidden because it's complex. It's hidden because acknowledging it requires humility. It requires admitting we're not entirely self-made, that our failures aren't entirely our fault, and that our successes aren't entirely our doing. But once you see this logic, once you really understand how opportunity and effort interact, you become both more compassionate and more free. Compassionate toward others because you understand the invisible walls they might be facing. And free yourself because you stop measuring your worth by outcomes you can't fully control. You keep working. You keep showing up. Not because it guarantees anything, but because it's what gives your life shape and meaning. Because effort, in the end, isn't about earning success. It's about becoming someone you respect, and that's the only logic that matters.